Welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in, for listening to Two in the Cooler. If you're listening for the first time, you can follow us on social media at Two in the Cooler, especially on Twitter. We put up our Who Would Win of the Week polls on there, and Matthew and I really like to see what you guys have to say about that. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you'd be so kind, feel free to rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts and share the podcast with the people you love, because if you like it, of course they will too. And when you spread it around, that helps us a ton, helps us keep the show going. This episode of Two in the Cooler comes to you in affiliation with Instacart. I don't know about you, but going to the grocery store feels like a real chore for me. I feel like I never really have time to go, and when I do get there, I'm rushing around, and even if I make a list, sometimes there's things I forget. I'm like, oh shit, when am I going to get back to the grocery store? What am I going to do? That is why you need to be using Instacart. It's the best way to get your groceries in 2020. They will pick out fresh produce, whatever you want, some of your favorite products from some of your favorite local stores, and deliver them right to your door in as little as 1 hour. Right now, Two in the Cooler listeners get free delivery on the first order of $35 or more. Hit the link in the show notes to get that deal.
Well done, Andy. Good clap, good clap.
That was a great clap.
How are we today?
One of our best claps.
That was pretty good. Episode 30.
Yeah.
We are at episode 30 after a lot of confusion. I believe it was last week every week as to what episode we are on. But we are here. We have stumbled upon 30. That means we have been doing this for over half of a year, correct? Because there's 52 weeks in a year. And we do one episode a week.
Yeah, I guess that is how that math would work out. I'm not
so
really
that's how I see it. I don't even know when the first episode.
I
don't even know when the first episode came out.
April, I think.
Okay.
I think April.
I don't
know.
Yeah, that's.
You look back. Our full catalog is available on all podcast platforms for you to
nice.
enjoy.
Thanks for getting that in there. Good.
Yeah. Well, it's a good kind of quick plug for everybody.
Yeah, good plug. That's the word I was looking for. So what have you been up to since we last talked? We had Derek on last week, and I think that went pretty well. How's the week? Been going for you up until this point?
Week has been going good. There's a lot to talk about. Did you listen to, by any chance, Kanye on the Joe Rogan podcast?
I did not, but I definitely saw a lot of it on Twitter. Like, oh my gosh, the thing that we've been waiting for, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And that's as far as I got.
Okay. I listened to it, and yeah, I mean, people have been waiting for it for like a long time, kind of wanting it to happen. And Joe Rogan has said on his show before, that like he and Kanye and the people or whatever have like talked about trying to get one together, and it just never worked out. So last week on like Thursday, Joe Rogan put a picture on Instagram of him and Kanye saying that they did a podcast and it was coming out the next day. So I was like, okay, this is going to be the podcast. This is going to be like the podcast of the year. And I think that in some ways it was. I saw a lot of reactions to it that I didn't necessarily agree with, I guess.
I've only listened to a few episodes of the Joe Rogan podcast, so I don't always know, like, with certain guests what he would talk about. It seems like you were kind of getting into it. What do you mean by, like, you agreed with some takes, didn't agree with others? What was your take on it? What happened?
Well, some people were, like, upset that Kanye just talked the whole time, basically. Like, Joe Rogan,
which makes
sense, relatively speaking, didn't talk that much. Yeah, but I feel like that was the point of that episode. I mean, especially if you hear what Joe Rogan had to say about it in the past. Like, Kanye... so they talked a lot about, because he's running for president.
Was it like him as a businessman though? Is that what most of the conversation was?
It was everything. It was all of it. Okay. But it wasn't about his music so much, but it was definitely about him running for president and some of like the business stuff that he's like got his dipping his toes into or whatever, which is like a lot. But when you have the reason why it's the perfect platform for it is for Kanye. I mean, is because you can just have a full, completely uncut conversation that lasts like 3.5 hours, where it's just him like getting everything out there, as opposed to them just showing a clip of him like crying on stage talking about how Kim Kardashian like wanted to get an abortion or something like that. And they talked about that too, but yeah, it was it was it was cool. I liked the conversation a lot. He you know everybody's kind of like, oh, Kanye's like a crazy person, right? And I think that's just because I mean, look,
he is a little bit
he's
of
a
a
little
crazy
crazy
person.
for sure.
Before
Yeah.
you say whatever you're gonna say, he definitely has some craziness to him.
But so much of that I think comes from the little clips of him that get sent out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's
Just
how it
like
is with every celebrity.
right,
But
picking sound bites and stuff. But I feel, but
yeah,
him especially though. Like there's a lot of
I was gonna say the sound bites that you pick usually aren't out of context sound bites. Like it is him just kind of going ape shit, rambling about whatever it is he
that's
feels like he.
interesting because the thing is, he talks so much, and for him
Yeah,
to get one thought out takes like 15 minutes minimum. So it's almost like everything that he says is out of
of
context.
context. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's yeah. Um, it's kind of funny that you touched on that, like him running for president and stuff, because that's something that I wanted to say today, and um, I'll start by saying, as we both do, I love America. I love the troops, and I love the kids.
Yeah, do it for the kids and
Troops
for
and
the
the kids,
troops.
yeah.
Yep.
Troops and the kids are my two biggest things. But I am so fucking sick of the presidential election. Like I am so sick of it. I don't even like. I obviously care what happens, but I just don't care to see it anymore. Like it's
Yeah.
you can't even drive without literally neighbors having opposing signs in there. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like holy shit. And I mean, everybody has their own political opinions, but like some people are just batshit crazy. Like, and some people, I don't know. I'm just so over it. Like, I just want it to be like done and over with, and there be no more just like political like, tension. Not even tension,
Right.
because like I don't feel like uncomfortable around people of similar or different like political opinions.
Mhm.
I don't even mean tension. I just mean like it's all I see is people just bickering and
Yeah.
like I mean, I know like political elections and stuff like that, like they can get hostile, but like who gives a fuck? Like nobody cares anymore. Like at this
Yeah.
point, everybody's gonna vote for who they're already gonna vote for. There's nobody. I don't think that in the next whatever 5 days before the presidential election, that's mind is going to be changed. So just I don't care anymore. And I know a lot of people that are like, well, just get off social media. But here's the thing: is that as much as people hate to admit it, like if you're in like you, for example, like being involved with the news, not necessarily in the position you're in, but like a lot of like news people, and like we talk about it all the time, like in the sports world, like you need social media to survive. Something like Twitter is the only place to get literally minute by minute information on things that's constantly coming out, and you need to know instantly, right? Like you can't get rid of it, but at the same time, it's if like more than half the shit I see, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sick of it. So it's funny that you kind of brought up Kanye running for president, because I was gonna touch on this at some point in this episode. Is like,
Mhm.
holy fuck, I'm so happy it's about to be over. I hope that there's no extra needed backlash, nothing, whatever. Just fucking let's get it going in our 4 years of living in the country. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
whatever.
Right.
It's
Yeah. I have no idea. I mean, it's
because at this point, like, and this is like, yeah, I mean, we're as I always say, we're not a political podcast, but at this point, nobody's going to solve a single fucking issue if people can't figure out how to like find some type of compromise. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter
Right.
who's fucking running for office. Like, fuck. I don't know. I'm just so sick of seeing everything.
Yeah. Well, I
That's my
don't know
opinion.
why it's such a. I see a. I cannot tell you the amount of political commercials that I have watched this year, because that's a part of my job is we vet every single commercial that comes in just to make sure technically that it's fine to go on
Yeah.
there. So I've watched, I mean, literally hundreds of political commercials, and there are a lot of them that say, this person is going to work with people on both sides of the aisle. I hear that a lot in these ads, and then I feel like when people actually try to do that, they're seen and portrayed as traitors, and it's seen as a sign of weakness that you can find common ground at all. Um, and maybe the thing is, like, there are with Twitter decides everything, and that's such a powerful tool that's really, when you really consider it, controlled by a smaller number of people than you would think.
Oh, without a doubt.
But
And
they're just so loud that it seems like to politicians and companies that they're the majority, when a lot of times that's not the case, for better or for
yeah.
worse.
And another thing, like, kind of like, and then I have something completely
Sure.
different to
Well,
get
one
into.
thought equals about four thoughts,
Yeah.
but there's a
Um,
few. Wouldn't mind getting back to
I
Kanye
just,
for a couple seconds
yeah,
too.
yeah. I just like even the other day, somebody asked me, they're like, well, how, like, I don't even remember how they worded it, and I don't want to say it to make it seem like it was a dumb comment because it wasn't. But they were like, well, how do I even like become informed on things?
Hmm.
Like, and I'm like, honestly, like that's the biggest thing. Like, how do you have to either decide fairly early, like what, because everything is becomes biased. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I don't know. I guess it depends on what you're looking to get out of it, how you do your research, because it's so hard to find just like pure unbiased media. And we've talked about that with a few of our guests, I
Yeah.
think,
Ton.
that have, yeah. But yeah, back to the Kanye thing, and then we'll jump ship and we'll keep her going.
Um. So what I was saying about like bipartisanship. So Kanye talked so much, and it was really interesting. But they did talk a lot about him running for president, and so Joe Rogan started to ask him some questions, and Kanye kind of like wanted to kind of talk about things really philosophically, which is definitely not always the best when you're talking politics. But I'll say this, when Joe Rogan asked him like, what? How about war? Like, let's say you have to like declare war. There's like some of that shit going on. Like, what do you like? What's your plan? What are you gonna do? And you could tell that that's something that Kanye didn't really consider before, which is obviously
Like that, he
not
would be responsible for doing that.
right. Right. He was kind of thinking
Yeah.
about all sorts of other stuff and bringing people together and things like that, which is cool. But that you could tell that that was one thing that he hadn't really considered. And so his response was this: what I would do is I would get all of the experts in one room and have them give me the situation and take their advice and then choose the best course of action, which is an answer that I think would get absolutely, and I think it has, get absolutely trashed if, frankly, a
Like
legitimate.
a debate or something like
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, would get
Yeah.
absolutely trashed. But like, look,
It's actually the smartest
It's the
thing that of you
smartest thing
can
you could, like,
do.
what else are
Yeah,
you
no, I know what you
supposed
mean.
to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like nobody knows everything. It comes down
Right,
to
right.
like use the resources that you have. Yeah,
Yeah,
without a
like
doubt.
that's, I mean,
However,
not only is that an honest answer, but like, you know, if anybody was president, like that's the, like that's what you would do, and that's arguably,
yeah,
probably not
I
arguably, the best way to go about it.
I do get why. Like, I agree that it's a good answer. Like the second you said it, I knew that we were both on the same page. But I think that the reason that it gets torched is because when you are the president of the United States, like you're supposed to be like superior. Like, you know what I mean? You're supposed to
Right.
be able to
You're the parent of the
do that shit on
country,
your
you
own,
know.
even though I'm sure nobody is making any of these decisions solo, right?
Yeah,
Probably
yeah,
no
yeah.
president since I don't even, you know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
ever, like makes decisions like that just completely solely off his or her opinion. But having somebody admit that they can't do it is different than, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very, but that's kind of what I was thinking. And it almost tails me into my next point. And I know that we said we weren't going to get that far like into this, but you look at like what happened like at the last presidential election, and there's such like a was such a standard for the way that like the people who presidents were before they were presidents, which kind of got completely flipped. So that goes to pose the question, and I would actually like to maybe do a poll like this on social media. Like, how far do you think that would go? Like, do you think this is a realistic thing? Like, Kanye West runs for president and people like vote for him? And think about this, and this is one thing that the reason that I would say that it might not be as crazy as it seems, but not for the reason that you're thinking, because I think if it was like 10 years ago, like 2010, and Kanye was able to run for president, there would be a lot of not even that. If Kanye was in his musical heyday now in today's day and age with social media and stuff like that, and he ran for president, I think that the problem would be that if he won, it wouldn't be like because of like his stance as a politician, right? I think it would take over because that's when Kanye West was his biggest. But if he doesn't run for another 4, 8, 10 years or whatever, 12 years, by that point, all of those people, even the people who are big Kanye West fans, hopefully, and I pray that I'm not a lunatic for thinking this, would be like educated people in society and like could actually make a decision. And if
Mm.
they wouldn't vote for Kanye based off a music thing, you know what I mean? I don't think
Yeah.
that he could win strictly based off music, but I'm just saying it's a crazy thing to think about that like it came from this, you know what I mean? Like standard of like not literal but figuratively like Ivy League people, you know what I mean? Like and so I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about that. I guess I'm curious to see what other people think about too. You know what I mean? Like, could
Yeah.
Kanye West actually one day be president?
I don't know. I
I don't know.
mean, look, there were
I don't.
times before, there was a lot of stuff that he said that I agreed with, and you know, one of the other things I said, or I saw rather, was people getting on him for like rambling and stuff. But like, look, this guy's brain does not work like the rest of our brains, and I think he did say a lot of cool. That's not even the wrong, like just like really good stuff that I honestly do agree with, and I think was like pretty smart for real. One of the
I have
things
to
that
go
he
give it a
said,
listen.
I think it's definitely worth listening to. One of the things he said, they were talking about, he's got like that church, and I think there's like some kind of school attached to it or something he's doing, and he was talking about how he was telling like some engineer or whatever they works with that he wanted the school to be completely self-sustaining as far as energy and like food that they serve to the kids and stuff. He wanted to be all grown there and everything like that. And so um, he was talking about, he says this to the people and they're like, great, yeah, awesome, for sure. And they come back to him and was like, okay, we did it. We're at 70% of the food is all done here, and like mission accomplished. And he's like, no, I said like 100%, and he said he was like screaming at these people and stuff that he wanted 100%. And I don't know anything about gardens and stuff, but I think that does introduce an interesting idea that I think there's definitely something that's ingrained into people that sometimes close enough is enough. And that's just, it's cool to see somebody say, like, that's not true,
Yeah.
regardless of, I don't know all the details on this, how sustainable that idea actually is.
Yeah, that's
But look, I mean, I know, especially you say something like that initially, and it's like, well, there's a lot of factors, and you don't know if you could do that. But okay, that's fine. But let's go through all these factors, and maybe there's a solution to each of these factors. Like, just because it's crazy doesn't mean that it's
yeah.
impossible.
No, I think that but I think that the biggest takeaway from it is more the passion that he showed for wanting to get it to 100%, because just like, I mean, if you are talking Kanye West running for president, that's just impossible. You know what I mean? Schools, because think about this. That's one school, and I don't know. Is it like considered like a public school?
I
Like,
have
is
no
is
idea
there
any
tuition?
details about it. I
So
just know,
either kids are paying a shit ton of money to go to that school, or somebody's paying a shit ton of money to run it, right?
Mhm.
Like, there's just no way. I mean, because you're talking, unless you're having every kid eat vegetarian 24/7, but even then, like,
Sure,
that's a shit ton of work. Like, I just like think about it from a I don't know. I just instantly think about it from a cost perspective, and I think that it is an interesting idea. And you're right; you could sit down, but there's no way. And I'm not saying like there's no way in like a negative sense. I'm just saying right now, I I would love for somebody to, because I'm not saying like don't even try, because I'd love for it to happen. But if somebody could come up with a realistic plan of how to make that cost like a
right.
sustainable amount of money, like give say there's no tuition, like, so say you want like public schools to be like that virtually, like there's just no way without, I mean, because the tax, like, you know what I mean, without taxes,
Mhm.
just
Yeah,
fucking going
sure. But this is
sandpaper lube, or fucking no lube sandpaper finish around people's hoop, like it'd be it's so expensive to
yeah.
run. I think that
But
the
this is all considered in the economic system that we currently have. And it's so massive right now, but that doesn't mean that it's the best way or like the only way. Like, you'd have to, it'd be, again, that's another insane idea, is you'd have to completely upend literally everything. And
Andy, I think which I think you're start I think you might be a socialist.
this does sound like that, and I definitely don't like that. I'm just saying,
Like, I'm just saying, like, if you like,
right,
I agree that it would be nice to find a way, but now if you're getting into uprooting our entire
right,
economy, which is based off of capitalism, that's
yeah,
virtually like the only way to accomplish that is virtually
right.
socialism,
And I
which,
think if you did that, at least for a long period of time initially, it would make things a lot worse.
well, that's what I mean. I mean, there's parts of a socialist society that people can argue all day that are like would be so practical and helpful, which, okay, whatever, take it for what it is, but it's so unrealistic because it's not sustainable.
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah,
comes, I mean, I mean, when you look at like the differences in like political parties today, like that's a big part of it, is like this is what a lot of people want to hear maybe, but it's not realistic or the best way to
yeah, for
operate a
sure.
country. And you know, and I think the term history repeats itself only goes to show that, and like that kind, because it just doesn't work. And people are like, well, no, it would be different this time. And as I've said
And
to you before,
right,
it's the definition of insanity, doing the
yeah,
same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Like, it's just not practical, I
yeah,
don't think. And I know people disagree. And again, we're not a political podcast, so we don't have to get into any of that. But I think it's really interesting. I want to listen to it because I'm curious to if I have similar takeaways from you. Maybe not necessarily politically, but like in the way that he talks. And I don't know. I definitely want to listen to it now. That was.
yeah. It's worth it. And I tell you what, the guy's ego is obviously massive, and he talks about that so much. The other thing is Kanye unbelievably religious. So that would definitely sway my vote against him. Just because, but also he's like restructuring Christianity in his own way.
He's
But
starting a
but
cult
he's
pretty
still
much.
like,
That sounded
yes,
culty.
that does sound
Restructuring
culty.
religion in your old ways, a little culty.
That's like
A little culty.
that should be the definition of what a cult is. Jesus Christ, it's so fucking hot in here.
You know what though? It is hysterical. If you were to listen to like Kanye, some of like his music and stuff like that, like not in music, like if you listen to it like it was a speech, it's definitely he throws off some heavily culty vibes. Actually,
Yeah,
like
for
thinking
sure.
about it.
And I think that people who listen to him for an extended period of time could definitely be like he has that charisma and
Yeah, he has that effect.
self-assuredness that could definitely get people to join a cult
But
easily, without a doubt.
I don't have a problem with ego. Like you could have.
Yeah,
I mean, you
for
know me.
sure.
Like I've been
And
told
it's
that I have a bit
obviously
of an ego from
served
time to
him
time.
very well.
Exactly. My thing with ego is you can have the fucking biggest ego in the world because nobody does anything alone, right? So you can have such a big ego, but when it comes time to work in a team setting, you have to be able to set that aside for the goals of the group rather than your individual goals. And I think that, like, if it's, and that's a lot of people with egos can't do that, but the people that can, and I would assume, I don't know. I mean, I know some of Kanye's business, and he's had ups and downs, but in order to get to where you have to be, I mean, I'm sure that there has to be some side of him that's been able to effectively work with groups of people, or else you
For sure.
probably would never succeed.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. You definitely need to
especially
have
because he
both
has
of those
different
things,
assets or different aspects of his. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The other thing I want to say, when they did talk a little bit about like some of his business and stuff that he's gotten into. You know, he obviously does the clothes and shoes, and I want to say the first thing he said was about the shoes that he is trying to get rid of laces completely. So
there you go. Oh, so
I'm
now
just
you're
saying.
going from buying.
As soon as he said that, I was like, okay, I'm on this guy's side.
Yeah, you're going.
No laces
Yeah,
crew.
have you ever looked at the prices of his shoes, Andy? I don't think those quite fit into your fashion budget.
No,
that you've got
definitely not. Definitely not. But I'm just saying, if Kanye's a genius, the no laces thing, I've been telling you there's something to that, and I feel very validated by having him say that he's like trying to get rid of shoelaces, and everybody should get. I'm so pro no shoelaces gang for life. Yeah, I haven't worn shoelaces in like a year, and it's no, it's been a pretty tough year, without a doubt, but it would have been a lot worse if I wore laces. I'm very confident in saying that. So yeah, it was, it's just interesting to.
You actually didn't we do a bit of a study that led to the fact that there was a day that you wore shoelaces, and that is kind of when the world kind of started to go to shambles as far as coronavirus.
Right.
Didn't we discuss this once before?
Yeah. I don't remember when it was, but there is a direct correlation between laces and coronavirus. That's for sure. So,
however, we must say, as a former AP statistician in high school, even though I failed, that correlation does not represent causation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
As we all know, you remember the cheese slice on the bed sheets? There's something about that. People who eat like slices of cheese has like a super strong correlation with like the amount of people that die by getting strangled by their own bed sheets every year. Like a wicked strong correlation. And people say that there's no causation there, but I think that we just haven't dug deep enough into how eating slices of cheese affects your sleep.
Yeah, that has to be true. I mean, I feel like dairy is one of the number one things that people reference when they talk about, foods that make you have like weird dreams and stuff if you eat them before you go to bed.
I don't know. I don't think the correlation. I don't think it was people who eat cheese and die in bed. I think it was like two. Yeah, I don't know. getting off the rails there. Do you have anything else on the Kanye front? Because if not, I'm gonna
No, we can move on. It's just it's a good listen, and
yes.
especially if you like think that he is like a crazy person and that you don't necessarily agree with some of his stuff. Um, that's podcasting is the best format to listen to people that you disagree with because one,
Yeah,
they're going to talk forever, so you can either like find common ground, or if you just want to be divisive, then
you can sit there and get
you
pissed
can sit
off at
there,
him.
yeah,
Some
you can
people
sit
like
there and
that.
get
Yeah,
angry. And when they're talking for so long, they're for sure gonna like fuck up and say something that you can like grab
yeah.
onto. So it's a win-win. You can become a better person, or you can try and see
Keep
things
being
from the other
yeah,
side, or you can stay angry. Whatever you want to do. Okay, live
yeah.
your life.
Um, I think that was maybe one of the most constructive conversations that Two in the Cooler has ever seen, and it's funny that we had it because today is probably. Let me just give you a breakdown of like what's gone on here. So I had hockey season is in full effect at this point. So I had morning practice yesterday on the ice at 7. Went throughout my day, whatever. Could not fall asleep for the life of me last night. Like tossing and turning, the whole nine. Didn't fall asleep till probably at least like 2:30, like in between 2:30 and 3 o'clock this morning. Well, you know what I mean, like last night. And then I had morning practice again on the ice at 6:30. So I'm up at 5:30. My alarm goes off. So I'm saying generously 3 hours of sleep. And then I just had a bunch of stuff to do today. I had to go to the vet with Hannah and her dog because her dog had to get all this like yearly stuff done
Mm.
and just run some errands. And there's a bunch of stuff going on hockey wise too, between making sure that all the players that need to get tested this week got tested for COVID. And then one of the rinks that we were planning on starting some other like stuff at um got closed down because they had a COVID outbreak in one of the teams that plays at the rink. So now for that stuff, they want to try to find a different rink, but we're already at the Harbor Center practice. It's just absolute chaos going on right now. So around like 5 o'clock, I tried, or like 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I tried to get like an hour of sleep, and I was just same kind of thing, tossing and turning. So I am just absolutely exhausted. Like I'm saying, I cannot believe that. That was going to be the very first thing I said was if I can't physically sustain like an intelligent conversation, it's because I'm working with just scrambled eggs rolling around my head right now. But for some that, I mean and that's I think the reason that started like my political Twitter anger rant
Mm.
started because I'm so like just overtired and like I look at
Yeah,
my phone
yeah.
and I'm just like fuck this,
Right. You
dude. Like
just get
show
like
me
kind of
something
grumpy.
like not yeah, just oh grumpy is an understatement.
I know. I get
People
like
are
that.
yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
that 24/7 basically.
Yeah,
But I'll
I
tell you what, just to that was like you said, good conversation for two in the cooler. The thing is, you always say we're not a political podcast, and that's for sure. But I like to think that, you know, as we do this more and more, we're becoming a more honest podcast, right?
like
And
we're
that's
more
where
willing to
those
speak things because
right,
I actually agree because at first maybe you have that sense of all right to please people,
yeah,
and now that we're 30 episodes into it, it's like we're happy if like we want people to listen and we don't want to, our goal is not to
yeah,
set people off, but I mean even like you and I, whether it be a political conversation or whether it be two in the cooler or fucking who would win of the
yeah,
week.
yeah, yeah.
Like you know what I mean? We don't agree on everything either, but I do think that it's maybe more of a becoming more comfortable thing. However, I would say that we're never going to get more political than we did today
Oh
just
yeah, without a
because
doubt.
that's not our platform, right? And
No,
we're going to talk about it because that's pretty much all that's going on right now.
yeah,
Well, not, but like in a, as we talked about, like that's what it's on a lot of people's minds. And even I got an email from my college the other day that was like a um, political election stress management thing. Like, oh, is the
wow,
election stressing you out? Like, do these things, which like I between stress and anxiety, I'm up there top of the charts. Like I can't deal with anything easily, but I'm like come on, like, is it real? It shouldn't have to come to that point. You know what I mean? People shouldn't have to have their employers and their educators and stuff worried about them because of the stress of a political election. Like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
We live in a crazy, crazy world. Another thing that I want to talk to you about, I'm going to sneeze real quick.
Okay.
I apologize.
Beautiful. No, that was a good one.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't know if you've thought about it yet. And I hope that maybe you have, because I don't want to make this like as somber of a thing for you, but we've been very lucky to grow up in like a very big, close family, right? And everybody, like, and a lot of people didn't have like that opportunity, and I wish that, and some people don't like having a big family, and that's personal preference. But for the people that want it, I wish that they could have it, because it's awesome, right? Think about all the fun things we've done over the years. And this is this year, because of everything that's going on. And if you would have told me this in March, I would have laughed in your face. I don't think. Well, I know that like the holiday season just isn't gonna be the same. And I think that that's something that I look forward to so much, because I love like those events and those, like, you know what I mean? That's something that I really like to do, even though there's been a lot of times where I've been other places during family stuff, like specifically hockey, but like I always look forward to Thanksgiving, Christmas, you know what I mean? Like those times when from like the 23rd to the 26th of December, like everybody's at, you know what I mean? Our whole family's together.
Yeah.
And even like an out of towner sometimes will stay for, a week or 2 weeks. Like that is my favorite time of year. And the fact that we're not going to be able to not only have those people in, but not even be able to get together in bigger groups with the people that are around, right? And that's something that I've been thinking about lately, and I'm really like, I don't want to say like I'm upset. I mean, I am upset about it. I'm trying not to be like upset, because I know it's like one of those things that is out of your control. But I think that that's going to affect a lot of people too. And I'm bummed about it. And I didn't know if you had thought about it. So I was thinking about it. I know I've thought about it or think about it probably 10 times, but it's like, man, usually this is such an exciting time. Like, Thanksgiving's coming up. You're going to get to see everybody at Christmas. You're going to get to do all these fun things. And now it's like, well, you can't really do that shit anymore. And I mean, I guess things could still change, but the chances of them changing that quick after X amount of time and everybody all of a sudden being comfortable with that change is just such a long shot that I don't know. Have you put any thought into that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've definitely been thinking more about that recently as well. Um, yeah, it's rough. A lot of times it feels like, I guess especially, no, I mean just all the time. I can't remember a time when I haven't felt it, but um, the the stuff that we do with our family at the holidays, a lot of times is the only thing that sustains me for months going into it and months going out.
Like you're like, oh my, you're looking forward to it, and then you're like, oh my gosh, that was so fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's summer. You know what
Right,
I mean? And then it's like, okay, now it's summer. Yeah, no,
right.
I 100%.
It's a little
And
spiritual kind of rejuvenation.
oh,
And
without a doubt.
especially like, it's weird because a lot of that's a time when for a lot of people, and I'm realizing this about myself especially so much, that's a time when that's set to like check in with everybody and see what's going
Yeah.
on. Not just a time to, where you don't have to think about everything else going on, but just a time when you can, see how everybody is doing and stuff, and a time when those relationships that maybe are not. You're not like talking to these people every single day or whatever.
As
But
often.
that's the time period. That's the moment when those relationships get their buttons reset. right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
no, definitely.
and I mean, it goes without saying that it's something that I've definitely taken for granted, and you know, you just have to when you don't have a time specifically set for those interactions, you have to take a lot more responsibility to sustain these relationships yourself. And by not having those, get togethers and stuff when you know that that stuff is going to happen, to reach out to someone just kind of randomly is a vulnerable experience. You know, and
Think
I definitely get anxious about it. Like, you know, if I'm going to kind of like reach out to someone, a lot of times it will take me probably a couple weeks of thinking about it on and off before I
yeah,
actually act on it, because
yeah.
there's definitely a part that is like, you know, I mean, you just kind of make excuses like they probably don't want to hear from me or anything like
Or
that, or
yeah,
that sort of
yeah.
thing.
Or like yeah. Or you'll
They're
get to it
busy or whatever.
eventually kind of or you'll see him eventually, you know what I mean? But by that no, I agree. And I think vulnerability is a really good word to describe it.
Yeah,
Like it's like I was actually reading a book. I meant to tell you guys this. I've read a full book start to finish in 2 days, 240 pages.
this is the most afraid I've been in all of 2020.
Yeah, a full. I totally forgot about this, and you just fucking segued me right into it without even me setting you up for it on purpose. I've read an entire book. It was for school, but I will say that it was a book that I picked to read for school, and not only did usually would I not have read the book, but like I read it and I enjoyed it. It's called The Five Dysfunctions of Team, and a big part of it um is like talks about like trust, and when it says team, it means anything. It could be a
Sure.
family, it could be a sports team, it could be a like you know what I
Yeah.
mean, your
Any
office,
group
your
of people.
yeah, it's a group of people. And the like the big thing, like if you look at it like a pyramid structure, the bottom of the pyramid, the thing that supports everything is trust, but not like not like your basic trust, not like oh I trust that you're gonna keep a secret or some shit. It's trust in the sense that like you know that so, like somebody else has the same good intentions for you that you do when you speak to them. You know what I mean? And a big part of that is becoming comfortable with being vulnerable and showing vulnerability and like you know it it's interesting that you bring that point up because it almost works in the same way. Like if you're not willing to open up to somebody and trust them like that, or if you don't like I don't know. I try to. It's hard to explain. I guess it's a long book. I never said I was good at explaining them, but when you read it and it like and you, I think about it from like me. Like okay, when people tell me stuff, when people come to me and need me, whether it be they need me to do them a small favor, they need a big favor, they need to whatever, they have a question, whatever it is, like I think, okay, in the past, how have I responded? Like, you know what I mean? Because when somebody tells you something, there's people out there that frankly, like you probably don't like, and when they say something to you, you probably feel half-ass about it, right? But now my thing now is like, okay, now every time somebody says something to you, like, do you feel like your intentions are as good to them as they are for you? And
As their
do
intentions
you
are
feel
towards you, you mean?
like like their own intention. So like I feel
Okay.
like I want to see myself do good, but when I tell you something that maybe makes me vulnerable, when you hear it, are your intentions the same for me that mine are for me? You know what I mean?
Right.
And like
Okay.
surrounding yourself, and I feel like family is almost always like that. least in our family, right? Everybody wants to see the best for everybody, but it comes, and then like the second thing goes into, well, fear of, or like lack of conflict, I guess,
Mm.
in a sense, but like positive conflict, not negative conflict, right? Like, and then it goes on and on and on, and into like commitment, accountability, and like I don't, whatever, you know what I mean? And then
Sure.
ego actually is the last one.
Right.
But it's interesting, like, I don't know, vulnerability is very difficult for just about everybody. But when you think about it, especially with family, why?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's no, there's I get what you mean, because I come from the very same place. But think about like our family right now.
No,
Think
for
about the
sure.
people that you would see on Christmas.
Yeah.
The people that you would see on Christmas, if you reached out to them right when we got off this podcast and said, "Hey, like, feeling bummed out that we're not going to be all get together for Christmas this year. Just wanted to check in. Hope everything's doing well." I guarantee you that person's happy to get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
like, but it's crazy that we have this opinion that maybe they're not, because there's people outside of family and in other teams or groups of people that are dysfunctional groups because you don't feel comfortable with being vulnerable in front of them.
Maybe that's something where, like, the idea of the individual, and this probably has something to do with the ego, uh, is a disadvantage because you're exactly right. I mean, if you think about those moments in your life when people have reached out to you, um, you always, I mean, I'm going to say almost always just in general, but I can't think of a time where not, you always accept them warmly, you know?
Yeah,
And
without a doubt.
I guess you kind and one of the things is like people, you know, oh man, there's actually this, I don't know what this has to do with, but there's this great quote from this book that I think about a lot, and it's something along the lines of it always surprised me when people, when I found out that people had the same strange and awful thoughts that I did. Like, I think everybody is can be afraid to put themselves out there, and everybody, when they have somebody put themselves out to that person, they'll always feel good and, like, accept that. You know what I mean? Um, and
The
that's
thing
one
though
of those
is
things you
is
kind of have to.
assuming, well, that's assuming that you've surrounded, family's different, but in
Sure.
other situations, that's assuming that you've surrounded yourself with the right people, and that's
Right,
the
but
problem. Is there's
right,
people out there
right.
that, yeah,
But I
and
think
that's why
that most of the time people are pretty good judges of who they can be vulnerable with and
yeah.
not. So I'm talking about those situations.
I think that early 2000s movies that depicted high schools have a big key role in that, because it seemed like people are always getting stabbed in the back in said movies.
Interesting,
Um,
interesting point.
yeah, not maybe not really, but it's just like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It does happen a lot in movies.
Uh,
And I was watching Community today, so my life as reality versus my life compared to movies and television,
mhm.
it always blurs when I start to watch a show, because Abed seems to have it really figured out.
Yeah.
And like the one episode, so I've been trying to get Hannah to watch it, and the one episode, oh, I just thought of, oh, okay. The one episode where
What's that?
it's very in the beginning. It's like it might be the third episode, second episode, when Abed gets the Spanish book that has like the thing, and they're like trying to figure out who had the Spanish book before, because it says that they have a crush on Abed.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, Abed, just be yourself. Like, go over there and be yourself. And he's like, okay. And then he doesn't go over there, and then they're like, why aren't you going over there? And he's like, because myself wouldn't do that. And Britta's like, well, is there a character of yourself that would go over there and do it? And he said, oh, definitely. And so he gets up, and then he starts going,
Yeah, that's a great moment.
yeah. And it's like, oh man, it makes me laugh. Okay, I have something that I want to say, but I want to do the who would win of the week first, and then end on this, because we've been going
Okay.
for.
Well, the a big thing that I wanted to ask you about was, though, if you saw the second Borat movie
That was going to be my last point to bring up. That's what I just thought of.
Oh, that's
Should we
what.
just
So
do
I
it now
spoiled
and
it.
then?
Yeah,
Should
let's
we
just
do
do
it
it
now
now.
and end
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
hoot
yeah.
of the week? Yes, I saw. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it. We did it on
Okay, so
Film Juice. So it'll be out in a
oh
couple
Jesus
weeks.
Christmas! The first thing I'll say, it, I'm going to compliment the movie, and it goes all the way back to our political conversation.
Okay.
Well, we've talked about the first movie a few times, and we couldn't believe that there was allowed to be a second movie coming out. Like that somebody would say, like, yes, let's do this, given how sensitive the world is today, right? And politically correct and all that nonsense. The movie does such a good job, though, and tell me if you agree or disagree with this, with just equally making fun of everything. My biggest fear was going to be that the movie would turn into like a political thing, because that's what he does. Is it's all about like making fun of stereotypes.
Yeah.
Pretty much is the
Yeah.
whole movie's about. But he does such a good job of like, even if you split it just down the middle for like Republican Democrat, he makes fun of everybody.
Yep.
Of all sides. He does not give a fuck, and they do it. And I would say that was probably his goal, because he didn't want it to be political, even though some of the stuff he does is fairly political. But I thought that was like one of the reasons that like people that are sensitive as fuck need to watch that movie and realize, like, dude, you can make fun of fucking everything.
Yeah.
And you either have to stop being a pussy about getting made fun of, or like, dude, like live in a hole, honestly. Like either like just grow the fuck up and like understand that like jokes are supposed to be funny. And that's all this movie is. It's literally for pure comedy. Also partially to show how fucked up the world we live in is, but from it's like a dark comedy, right? Like, we live in this fucked up world. How hysterical is this? And he makes fun of everybody. And that's how it should be. Okay, so after that point, the second it finished, and I don't know if it's because I've seen the first movie so many times, and the first time I saw it, the world was in a lot different state than it is today. But the first movie's got some pretty some obviously very cringy, hysterical parts. But I said the second it was over, I said, you could not give me $3 million cash and tell me to go film that movie. I physically couldn't do it. There are some parts that are so uncomfortably funny. Like the scene, can I say a scene? I don't think it really ruins the movie.
Of Borat 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The scene where his daughter is in that like Republican woman's like
that convention thing or whatever.
Convention thing, and she gives that speech. Like, so some parts of that movie are like doctored, like they're not.
Yeah.
100. Like, there's clips that like are from other things. Like, I'm pretty sure the Mike Pence scene, like that is fair. Like, he never made it. You know what I mean? I don't think he ever got that far into. Like, I think a lot of that is like, but it's still hysterical, which is fine. Yeah. But like, that is one of those scenes where it's like when he was at the dinner party in the first movie. Like, I think that scene is. I guess I could look it up. I don't care to, because I'd rather believe just based on how cringy. I think that's like 100% like. Those people had no clue. She went up there and did that.
Oh yeah, for sure. There are, what I've read about the movie and stuff. There's definitely some instances where, a producer will call and be like, "Hey, we have this person." Like with Borat, the dinner scene in the first movie, probably my second favorite scene in that movie. Like, they'll probably have somebody call ahead and be like, "We have this like foreign guy or whatever, and he kind of wants to learn this stuff."
Like a film crew coming in, but right, yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be, but they're not saying that. Character. Yeah,
right.
And I'm watching this, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" Like, you have to go watch this movie. It's free on Amazon Prime. Yeah. You have to go watch this movie, and when the scene comes up that I'm talking about, if you don't just like want to crawl inside your body, then you are a sick puppy, because it is. But it's so, like, it's hysterical.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And yeah, I loved it. That was my favorite thing about the movie is, like you said, he nails everybody. And so it's hard to not, like, talk about the movie in terms of, like, philosophical ideas and like society and like all that shit. So my number one favorite thing for after watching this movie is that it was like, okay, so deep breath in, everybody's still terrible. Like that's
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's there. Everybody is still a terrible, terrible person. Um, and the other thing I was like, in a world where everything is so black and white right now, I was like, how are people on either side going to stand by this movie when it nails both of them so
Yeah.
perfectly?
Yeah.
Because
The part where
the parts where he goes after, some conservative guys, so fucking funny, and seems like something that people on the left would be like, yeah, like those dumb motherfuckers, like fucking get them. And then, but he also does the most, like, some crazy offensive shit that's so fucking funny, and
when
that they won't
when
be able to
he
stand
is
by.
singing, like when it's like the part where he's staying with those two guys,
Yeah,
and then he goes like that thing and he sings that fucking song. Oh my god. That whole scene with like them in the house together, like when he's got like, oh my god, like just stupid shit. And then when
yeah,
that I don't even want to, yeah. I just want people to go watch the movie and just like be a fucking person about it. Like, don't go into it
right,
and be like, I'm
man,
gonna get butthurt every time they conflict or they like disagree with my like opinion. Like,
yeah, for
who
real.
gives a fuck, dude? If you're still living, assuming that one day everybody's gonna agree with your opinion, you are in the wrong
That's
fucking world,
crazy.
my friend.
And also, like, it's okay to
Um,
have multitudes. Like, it's okay
yeah,
to, and I think a big part of that comedy, which is kind of like satirical, I guess, is laughing at the fact that the truth is there are just some people that see things that way.
yeah,
Like, that's what's funny about it. Not that it's like super offensive, but just that the fact that like somebody could think that
yeah.
way and stuff. Yeah,
I
I loved
actually
it.
have
And
I actually
his daughter, the actress who played his daughter, I thought was freaking awesome because the movie would have not worked in the slightest if she had
if
been
she was, yeah.
like any worse at all. Like she was so good.
I don't even know how. I I don't even I have no like just watch the fucking movie.
Yeah.
I have a friend actually who's going one day for Halloween to I don't know when like to either a party or bar
Mhm.
as Borat, and it's gonna be fucking hysterical. And I told him, I said, like, I think that if you're gonna do it, you should just be as ignorant as possible and like just play Borat. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like go out on Halloween and just be Borat. Don't try
Right.
to be dressed as Borat. Like just like it'd be fucking hysterical. I mean, maybe don't get arrested, but like
Yeah.
just be Borat. You know, I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
but they're keeping it secret still, so I'll tell you who it is after.
Okay. Now I bet you there's like
But
a
shout out
a
to
real
them.
like interesting type of freedom when you play a character like that and when you get so deep into character for so many hours like he did.
Yeah,
Like he literally lived with those two dudes for 5 days and he had to be in character on them
yeah,
all the
as
time.
Borat,
Yeah, which is nuts.
which is so fun. It's probably not even good for like your. You have to be pretty strong mentally to be able to do that. All
Yeah.
right. We've been going for almost an hour now. I say we get into the who would win of the week,
Yeah.
and then we'll wrap shit up. I know I like to usually keep it a little shorter when it's just you and I, no guests, because people probably get sick of hearing us talk about absolutely nothing.
No, I don't
Even
think
though
they
we
do.
definitely have talked about some shit today. But this week's who would win of the week is definitely Halloween inspired.
Yeah.
It's definitely a 90s child inspired.
Hmm.
Um,
I didn't even
we
realize that this
have
was like gonna be our Halloween episode. I tried to find like a little costume or
yeah.
something, but I forgot
Oh, I
about it.
didn't
So I
even
just
think
have
about
this little
that.
pipe.
I
Yeah.
definitely could. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I actually have to come. I've got a costume set for Saturday, couples costume, not a big
Yeah.
deal.
Not a big
But
deal.
Friday,
Do you want to say what it is?
yeah.
You want to say what you're going for
No,
Halloween?
no.
Okay.
No. Oh,
Okay.
maybe we'll get some stuff up on social media though.
Oh
Once
yeah,
it
we
happens.
probably
But
should.
Friday, Friday we're going out with like a big group, and Hannah's going as something with some of her friends. So that kind of leaves me to
your own device.
decide on my own Halloween costume. And I talked to my roommate about maybe if we should do something. About my only parameter was I'll be it if it will cost me under $10.
Okay.
So, but I don't know. So anyway, back to the who would win of the week. Who would win of the week?
We gotta nail down that song. We gotta get that together.
Yeah, we gotta write something. We have the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus. Can't remember the names off the top of my head. You have Sarah, Winifred and Mary Sanderson. Yeah. And then we have, so a little tweak here. We have the
Cromwell witches.
I guess you would say the Cromwell witches from Halloween Town, but you have Aggie the grandma, Gwen the mom, and Marnie the oldest daughter. We're not including Sophie at this point. However, for several reasons. One, I actually, and Andy kind of disagreed with me on this when we went over it. I actually think that Sophie would make them too powerful. I think that would make the fight unfair. Yeah. But also, just to keep numbers even, I also think something that we didn't talk about that we should get down right now. What movie in Halloween Town? Because obviously Marnie's powers progress through the series as she gets older. Are we going the very first Halloween Town? Are we staying true to original? I mean, they're closer. The movies are closer in year at that point.
Sure, I'm cool with going Halloween Town High for sure, as long as we don't
Halloween Town High.
Yeah, I'm cool with putting that in there.
Okay.
Okay. But based on your reaction, I mean, we can just go Calabar. No, Revenge.
I'll go. I have no problem going Halloween Town High.
As long as not. What's the?
Well,
what's the fourth one? The fourth one, as far as I'm concerned, is not canon because it's a different actress playing Marnie, so I don't count that movie.
Yeah, it is still good. Same brother though.
Yeah.
And the other actors. Halloween Town. So the third Halloween Town is Halloween Town High.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. That's we can do that. I think it makes the conversation more interesting because in the first two movies you don't see as much like real magic out of Marnie, so I guess that kind of spices it up.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna take the reins and dive into it right away if you want. The Sanderson sisters wreaked havoc for a long time. And they were even powerful enough to know that one day they would come back because a virgin would light the black flame candle. And that worked out all well and good. But at the end of the day, the Sanderson sisters were defeated by a group of non-magical humans, but just regular humans, right? Whereas you look at just the Cromwell name, they're the most powerful witches in all of Halloween Town. That's a fact. So the grandma, dominant force, the mom, dominant force. And if we're going Halloween Town High, that's when you see Marnie really be able to use her magic, right? She doesn't have it all down yet, but she really starts using it. And when they get in these movie conflicts and they get in these fights, they're fighting other magical creatures, and they've always found a way to win. So I think that right away you look at, given the Sanderson sisters, you know more about their past than their present, right? Because they don't have that much time to operate within. But you don't really usually either in Halloween Town, because for some reason it always happens that the portal is either closed or you have 4 hours till midnight or whatever it is, you know?
Right.
Yeah, there's always something.
Yeah.
So, but if the Sanderson sisters are going to be defeated by mortal human beings, just regular old average Joes, kids, in fact, and a cat, which I guess is somewhat magical because it can talk, but it's a guy
who got turned into an immortal
cat. Yeah. But I think that right away you have to look at the Cronwell witches as more powerful than the Sanderson sisters, just because as of the time that we live through the movies, the Cronwells appear more powerful, and the Sanderson sisters die to a bunch of kids.
Right.
But as folk goes, as the tale goes, I mean, they ruled wherever. What was it? I don't know if it's Salem. It's somewhere
Salem.
in Massachusetts. It is Salem. I mean, they dominated and ate children there for a long time, I guess. But it also comes down to good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times when we're talking about these situations in movies, good wins and evil doesn't. So if you take it out of movie and really just throw them in a ring, who's going to win?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? I know I just kind of went off, and I'm sure you can tell I kind of
some
have an
interesting
idea.
points. You make some good points that I kind of want to try and refine a little bit. No,
Okay,
not exactly rebuttal, but so let me put on my kind of nerd hat here, which I am always wearing. So I guess I'm just adjusting it. The type of magic that the Sanderson sisters use and the type of magic that the Cromwells use is very different. I would say. So I'll get into this in a little more deep. The Sanderson sisters, their type of magic seems to be like the type of magic that if you were like a regular person and just like practiced and studied and like grassroots kind of like witchcraft, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
and
can I just add one point before you continue though?
I think
just on
this
that
might be
okay.
They get their powers from the devil.
Yeah, I'd say because they do. I mean, obviously, effects are different. The movie's a lot older, especially than the third Halloween Town. But they do the zappy thing, right? They
sure.
they zap people.
Sith lightning.
They bring they bring that one zombie dude back to life. That's mouth is so shut. So they do some magic, but you don't see the magic from them that you see. But it's okay. Keep going. Sorry.
And obviously and even though we don't necessarily see them use it as much, they do have like a spell book and stuff that they're pretty reliant on. And like I said, they are people who got their powers from the devil, right? They're gifted it from an outside source. The Cromwells are themselves magical beings. And the type of magic that they use seems to be more what I would consider kind of like Harry Potter style magic, where the rules are like pretty loose. Where I would argue that with the Sanderson sisters, even though we might not see it so much in the movie, I think there's a lot of subtext there, at the very least, saying that the magic that they use does have a lot of rules to it. The fact that it takes them time to prepare their child soul-stealing spell. There's a lot of singing, which is very ritualistic, right? To their magic. Whereas again, the Cromwells, that magic is almost like flexing a muscle for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you do see. It's just tough because now I'm off. I don't remember exactly in the third movie, but you do see times in the first movie where they do have to collect the stuff for the potions.
That's true.
And then it's when the ha tiki ti, ha tiki ta. That is forever burned in my brain. I'll never forget that spell. I don't know. It unfreezes people or some shit.
Right.
But I think that I'm gonna go with the Cronwell witches this one. I think that because we really don't even talked about Marnie. Like you didn't even consider how powerful Aggie is. Aggie Cronwell is the Cronwell witch of Halloween Town,
right.
And the mom. Although the mom at first despites magic in the beginning of the movie series, by that point, I mean she you know what I mean? Like she's dialed like. So I think that if you take all three of them together, because this is
Um,
So you look at the Sanderson sisters. It's made to seem that minus the one sister, I don't remember which one is which. Um, um, I think Mary, minus Mary, who's like their leader. The other
no,
sisters are like
Winifred is
fairly
like the
Winifred.
lead one. Yeah.
Oh well, the other sisters are like fairly incompetent individuals,
Hmm.
right? From what you, so I think I'm gonna lock in Halloween Town, Cronwell Witches. What do you got for me?
Yeah, especially when you look at it like that, and with the mom, Gwen Cromwell, uh,
Yeah,
she yeah, at the beginning of the movie series, she hasn't used magic in so long that she is a little rusty. But by the end of the series, when she starts to use it more, you see that it doesn't take very long for her to like snap right back into it. Uh, I think that ultimately, without a doubt, the Cromwell witches would wipe the floor with the Sanderson sisters. I
the
mean,
Sanderson
anything
sisters.
like they're evil, but you know, I, like they definitely are powerful in a way, but uh,
Yeah, I just don't think they get it
because their
done.
power
I
doesn't
don't.
come naturally to them, they're I think they're not as
They're at a
powerful, and there's
disadvantage,
definitely
but they're
and
definitely
yes,
not as
they're
powerful.
definitely at a disadvantage. And like you said, the other two sisters, not Winifred, they're definitely pretty incompetent. Although, so I mean, if this were like to use the most common analogy ever, take out the head of the snake, which is Winifred, the other two sisters would be completely done. So
Tippy
if
toes.
you go Aggie Cromwell versus Winifred Sanderson, you are a motherfucker if you think that if you're trying to tell me that Winifred would win that in the
Yeah, there's no
slightest.
chance at all.
Yeah,
It's
she
not even
would get
close. I'm glad we
completely
agree.
roasted. Yeah, without a doubt. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't. I don't
Um.
think you can bet against the
No.
Cromwells. Maybe
Yeah.
against some other if they
Um.
go against some other people, but the Sanderson sisters, I
Yeah.
just think they don't. They definitely don't have what it takes from
I
an
think that the
ability level, and
only.
I think as team, just everything, all components.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think that the only like. I mean, like it's a very like because like they're not Harry Potter level. You know what I mean? Like they're not. I don't think they're as power. Like those people are
No,
killing
I'm
each
just
other
saying
and
like the
shit.
the type of
But
magic
like,
though.
yeah, no, that's what I mean. But I think that they are. So, Halloween Town, Cronwell family, witches. That's what we're locking in. But of course, we'll get you guys' opinions on social media with the Who Would Win of the Week polls. Um, I would assume it's going to be a landslide, but I don't know. I
I
guess
don't
I
know
guess
either.
every once in a while people got to shake things up.
Yeah,
And a lot of people are very passionate about the movie Hocus Pocus,
right.
which it's a good movie, but I'm not sure where all their passion comes from. Um,
And I do think like the
so
Sanderson sisters are in their own way like intimidating, and
oh
they
yeah.
definitely do some like fucked up like scary stuff.
Also, though, I mean, I do still think that they'd win, but let's remember that they came back to life in a time period that they had no clue
Yes,
about,
yes.
and they still came pretty damn close to pulling off some trickery. So you got to give them credit where credit's due, but I don't think they could beat the Cronwalls.
No, not a
Like we
chance.
said, you'll see that on social media. Let us know what you guys think. Andy, I don't mean to rush us out here, but I do think that this is probably a good time to wrap things up before we get into another little rant as we tend to do. So what do you think?
Sure, hey, we can wrap it up. I got no problem with that.
Yeah, I think very, maybe almost a different episode as far as the dynamic between just the two of you or just the two of us being on, but still having
Mhm.
more of a conversation that seems like we'd usually have with the guests. So I thought it was
Right.
really good. Um, Thank you guys for listening. Um, Happy Halloween. If you live in Haddonfield, Illinois, keep your head on a swivel. Um, and
Okay.
yeah, that's about all I got.
Yep, and that Yeah, swivel those heads. I don't know what that is a reference to. But
You didn't get my
better-
reference?
No.
Haddonfield?
Haddonfield,
Really?
Illinois.
It's the birthplace of the one and only Michael Myers.
Oh, okay. No, I had no idea.
Yeah, little
I can't
Halloween
say I knew
reference
that.
there.
Great movie.
Little Halloween
I just saw
reference there for the
Scream for the
folks.
first time. That was a pretty good
Really?
movie. Yeah, I liked it a lot actually.
Yeah.
So one of my buddies
All
said
right.
they liked it as much as Halloween. I'm like, I don't know about that, but it's a good movie.
Have you seen the new Halloween? The new Halloween's so fucking good. Like the one that came out in 2018, I think it was.
No, I really liked that one too a lot.
And there's a new one coming out in 2021 too. I don't know if you knew
that was supposed to come out like a couple weeks ago, and it's one of the ones that got delayed.
Oh, but
pushed
yeah.
back, so yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Matthew, love you. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, love you too. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.